All right, well, we'll go ahead and
Come sit with us, John. John, thanks for
we'll go ahead and begin the Environmental Action Committee, and thank you for coming. If people come in, and that's okay, we'll introduce them as they arrive. But my name is Sarah Lewis. I am one of the Ward 4 City Council members and chair of the EAC. Angie Albright is the vice chair, I guess you call it, of the EAC. Kirby McAllister is on the committee as well as is James Barton, and they are not able to be here this evening, but I would like for us to go ahead and introduce ourselves.
I'm Terry Lane.
I'm Brian Pugh, City of Fayetteville.
Okay, and so can you tell, since we do have someone that doesn't know us as well in the room, can you tell kind of what your background is a little bit?
Like your subcommittee.
Yeah, why are you here, or what brings you
Your
here?
passion.
Just in brief.
Okay, can we just do that again then?
Yeah. Terry, would you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Terry Lane, and I am raised in Fayetteville, grew up in Fayetteville, and so I care about the city a lot, and my passion environmentally is wildlife habitats, and so I'm the volunteer project leader for the Community Wildlife Habitat Project.
And you have a degree,
I have a degree from the U of A in Environmental, Soil, and Water Science. 1995.
You were like 13.
I'm Brian Pugh. I work for the City of Fayetteville. I'm not on the committee, but I've been asked to come and speak. Waste Reduction Coordinator for the City of Fayetteville, manage the recycling programs in Fayetteville.
Thank you.
I'm John Coleman, Sustainability Director for the City of Fayetteville.
Richard Russell, citizen at large.
What ward do you live in?
1.
Okay. I'm Louise Mann. I live in Ward 4. John, what ward do you live in?
2.
Good job. And I'm on this recycling subcommittee.
I'm Connie Chris with Fayetteville School District, and I kind of work with all of you guys in different projects, and all the different wonderful projects here.
Well, very good. So today, just to summarize the agenda a little bit, and John, you can straighten me out here if I mix things up, but
You know I will.
I always do.
He's had too many ginger snaps.
That's right. Brian Pugh has joined us, and he's going to share information about our recycling program. And it started with an idea from Louise that we needed to be, one, informing ourselves, and then also the public more about the recycling rates and the market and the types of commodities that we are selling in the recycling market. And why it's so important for us to maintain our clean stream of recyclable materials. And so thank you to the recycling subcommittee for helping us stay in touch with Brian and his work with the recycling program.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, I handed out a copy of the resolution that was passed in January, and it basically summarizes everything that Sarah just mentioned.
And this was a result of the recycling subcommittee as well, drafting the language and working with staff and so on. Thank you.
Right. So what I thought, I know I don't have much time, but what I thought about doing was showing everybody where that information is at on our website, so the public can be informed of where to go.
So can I read the resolution?
Yes,
It
sure.
says, a resolution to recommend posting quarterly reports about recycling efforts and seeking new markets for additional recycled material. So essentially, this is work that was already being done, and the ask was if staff would post it on the website to make it more accessible to the public.
Right. And so I'll explain some of that stuff right now. What we have, of course, is our website. accessfayetteville.org is the city's website. It's an awesome resource for the city. Pretty much anything you want to find out about city operations and ongoings with the city is found here. So when you go to the site, the green bar on the home page, where it says government, which is right on the top left, you'll go there. You can go down to all the different divisions. So if you'll scan down to solid waste and recycling, click it on, it'll take you to the home page for solid waste and recycling.
Okay.
As you can see on the right-hand side, we now have 3 really pretty buttons that people can look at. That is where you'll find all the information related to this resolution.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you.
So before I explain that, if you look also on the main page, there's also links
does great.
It really does.
It
That looks
really
nice.
looks, it's so
Honey,
obvious.
we've come a long way from the ditto machines.
And before I talk about the boxes, in the main page right there, there's some blue links in the third paragraph down. That has information about our bulk pickup, yard waste collection, residential recycling, commercial recycling programs, drop box, and then the commercial and residential waste collections. If you click on those links, you'll go to each one of the pages
Wow.
and find out information about that particular program. So I wanted to point that out. That information was on there to begin with, but I want people to be aware that if they have questions about their solid waste and recycling services, that they can go here and just click a link right on the front page there and take it right to where they need to go. So I'm going to start with the first button there, which is the quarterly reports. And this was the information that we were generating for our budget division.
Okay.
And there's 5 pages right here. So this was the information that we were already gathering, and budget was submitting, and I guess the council would have to view this information if they wanted to as well. So information on this first page deals with the tonnage of our waste stream broken down by each one of our programs. So we have commercial waste, drop box. Now drop box is the big commercial containers,
Is
usually
it
for
a
construction
6 or an
debris.
8, or are we talking 20 or 40?
20, 30s, and 40 yards
Okay.
is what we have. So that's the big boxes that you see on construction sites and different remodel projects and things of that nature. Big cleanups and things like that. So that's the drop box program. Then there's the recycling program, composting program, transfer station, which is not necessarily waste that is picked up by the city of Fayetteville. It is a public transfer station. We do have public coming and dumping their waste there. We do have a lot of private haulers from outside of the city that come and use that transfer station. So that waste is some of the waste that comes from outside the city. And then the residential collections is everything picked up in the green carts. So it's broken down by percentage. This is for the first quarter of 2011. And we will be updating this each quarter. So the tonnage to date on some of these records are only reflected for the first quarter. Now I want to say that it takes about a month after, like at the end of March, it takes about a month after before I start getting all the results in from the revenues that were collected, finalizing weights, all that kind of stuff. So this one, like at the end of March, this wouldn't show up first week of April. It's more like the first week of May before I actually have to put it onto the website. So there is a little lag time there, but that's just to make sure that we have our information as accurate as we possibly can get it. So each one of these, like I said, there's 5 pages on the quarterly reports tab. This particular one shows the recyclable sold tonnages and percentages. We do have some lumping of commodities here, like it says glass. And some other ones that I'm about to show you, it has it broken down by clear, green, all that. That's just lumped together. The plastics are lumped together as well. But that's just because it was generated in that format for years and years, and that's how we've kept it. So, yard waste collection. Oops, went too far. Here's one about the revenue. And then the recycling collection is the bottom one. And that kind of gives you a breakdown of how we pick it up. So the big blue wedge there is what we pick up in our recycling trucks.
Would you click on the little plus sign and see if you can zoom into that? To the right.
Make it a little bit bigger. Is that better?
Thank you.
That's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this little wedge right here is what we pick up tonnage-wise in our recycling program with our trucks. That goes curbside, that picks up home to home, and some businesses as well. The community drop-off is that bright green color. Commercial cardboard is the big front loaders that pick up businesses. All the cardboard that's collected from that. And then the smaller ones, the red is the commercial paper program that we have, dumpster program. We have 27 dumpsters out and around Fayetteville. All the schools have them. Connie knows about this. So that's all that percentage. And then the scrap metal is things mostly that we get from cleanups and stuff. So that's how that information is broke down. This next one talks a little bit about our pay-as-you-throw program. Big wedge is a 64-gallon carts. The majority of people in Fayetteville have that 64-gallon cart, so you can see by percentage breakdown and number, how that plays out in our program. So 54% of folks have the 64s, 20% have the 96s, 26% have the 32 gallons. And that changes daily. So this is, again, just a quarter snapshot. So it's interesting to see how that fluctuates over time. And then again, the residential waste stream is that bottom one, just dealing with the composting, recycling, and residential waste.
That's good.
Now this last page right here is the information about the cleanups. We have ward cleanups, 8 ward cleanups each year. We'll actually have one extra one this year because we had a special one flooded on May 7th. But the reason why you only see Ward 4s up there.
Well, the reason why you want to see Ward 4. I mean.
I was waiting for a response. It was actually because it happened in March.
And
You
so
were
you just
the only
have-
one that happened in March. All
Right.
the rest of them happened April and
Later.
later. So the next quarter, you'll see how the other cleanups stacked up to yours.
So you
Okay.
collected 50 tons of
4278 of trash, 737 of metal that got recycled, the scrap metal.
So, like, what type of stuff is that?
Big bulky items,
Like washing machine,
Yep.
stuff like that?
yeah, refrigerators, appliances, swinging sets,
couches.
grills, lawnmowers,
Oh yeah, the inside of
Just big stuff you can't,
Bulky waste.
bulky
big bulk,
waste.
well, couches and stuff that get picked up, that would go with the trash.
trash.
But the big metal items, when they come to the cleanup, they have a box separated for metal, metal items. So that's getting separated there. So,
So something like a washing machine or something metal like that, is that sent off as is, or is that broken up into parts, or is that done in
that's
reverse?
sent off as is unless it's a refrigerator. If it's a Freon bearing item, it does have to have the Freon removed. So at the cleanups, if you've ever been there, when you pull up with a refrigerator, they'll actually take out a sheet of paper and have you write your name, address, look at the model number on the back, look at the capacity of the Freon that's in the unit, write all of that stuff down. And then when we get it back to our yard, when they process that, as they pull the refrigerators in, and we have a machine that sucks the Freon out. As they do that, they take that log, cross-reference it, and actually list out how much Freon was pulled from that refrigerator. And then we have a complete record of Freon removal. And then that is then sent to the scrap. Washing machines and things like that are just sent because there's no Freon in them. So they're just recycled.
And the MRF or whatever that it goes to can just take all that.
Right, it goes to a
metal
scrap
and-
yard. It goes to Rogers Iron and Metal in Rogers. And they process it through their scrap facility.
Do they shred?
I'm
Do
sorry.
they shred it at Rogers Iron Mill?
I don't think they do that there. They send it to a scrap yard and it probably gets shredded at that scrap
I
yard.
think they're a broker. I think they.
Yeah, they process a lot.
They
They
do.
provide us with the trailer
Okay.
to put the metal in. So.
Brian, where's the Freon go?
We actually have to pay to have that disposed.
So, and you're paid for the scrap?
Oh, yes,
Yes, that's part of it.
sure, yes. Yeah, there's value in scrap metal, for sure.
I know we, at Owl Creek, we couldn't use the old greenhouse, and we took the scrap metal, I'm not sure where they took it to.
Yeah,
Like $100 and something for what was
Yeah.
that made in the greenhouse.
yeah, it's valuable, for sure.
Is the Rogers Iron and Metal the only vendor supplier that we use for scrap metal?
Oh, for that we use for scrap metal, yes. Yes,
Are there other places in Northwest Arkansas?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's a lot. Okay, so that's the quarterly reports button. And that's, again, just information that was generated over the years. This next button, Recycling Markets, was actually something that we put together recently as far as we've known where this material goes, but we've added another element to it in the respect of now we're tracking what this stuff is made into. So-
While you're looking for it, Amy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah, hi, I'm Amy Merck.
There you go.
I just got married, so I just changed my name.
This is Richard behind it, he's the plastic committee.
Hi, Richard.
Can I ask questions
Sure.
of you?
It's a public meeting, so just chime in.
I don't have any questions.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned commercial paper.
Yes.
Is that bond paper?
It's
Like,
actually,
kind of-
yes, it's actually a mixture of all types of paper. Phone books, magazines, copy paper, all that stuff is what we try to market as our mixed paper grade. So all that stuff's collected through curbside collections and then also that commercial paper program.
So you only have one grade of paper?
No, we have actually fiber-related items. We have cardboard, chipboard,
Oh, okay.
newspaper, and then
Okay.
mixed paper. We try to keep the newspaper separate because it's more valuable. But the mixed paper is just a mix of all types of paper.
And this is why it's helpful when people separate it at the curb for you.
Yes, yes, very much so.
Put different papers in different bags or something.
Right, if they can separate out the newspaper, which newspaper stacks really well. So, you know, you can stack that on top of your bottles and cans and the guys can grab that. The mixed paper, if you put that into a paper bag where we do have those reusable bags, that helps us a lot, so.
I have two things. So we can put our phone books in with mixed paper?
Yes,
What about magazines?
yes.
Hey, Brian, I don't think everybody really knows
I
about
think
your
that we-
reusable bag.
And that's what else I was gonna say. That thing is fantastic.
Yeah, we do have these blue.
Excited about it.
And it was really hard for me to find out about it. I was on the city website because John had mentioned it to me, and finally I called
Yeah.
the solid waste division, and they didn't know what I was talking about at first. And I'm like, no, the blue
bag.
reusable. They're like, oh yeah, you can come down and get that.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody knows about it.
We do have some, and
Out there.
the,
Oh, you did great.
if you can get paper bags from the stores, that works really well, so.
So that's okay with you guys?
Oh, sure, yeah, because that's definitely a paper that can go into that
Right,
newspaper.
yeah.
The blue paper, reusable blue bags are available through the solid waste office. If anybody's interested, you just come down to our office, and they're $4.25, I believe. You can be purchased for that, and then you put, it has a divider in it, you put your newspaper on one side, you put your mixed paper on the other side, stick it in your bin, drivers segregate it at the truck, put the bag back in it.
Yeah.
They do blow away,
Oh,
so you have to be careful, you know. Our guys usually just put them back into the bin, but on windy days, they've been known to blow away,
Okay.
stuff like that.
So
they're-
tie a rock.
The lady down at the solid waste recommended putting my address on with a big Sharpie on there.
Oh, that's a good
Excellent.
idea.
But yeah, because if you're, I try to always use reusable bags, so I don't, and plus a lot of places don't have paper bags, which is what you need to put your mixed
Right.
paper in. So, plus that blue bag is just a lot sturdier.
Right.
So, I should advertise it more.
Yeah.
Okay, this table right here, I'm gonna kind of blow it one more time. See if we can get that looking a little bit better here. So this is a breakdown of what materials were sold in the first quarter of 2011. It's in alphabetical order on the left-hand side. Aluminum cans, we only sold one load. It went to a processing mill called Taft in Gadsden, Alabama. And what they do is they process new aluminum cans. So you can go down through this list, look at each item, see how much in tonnage was sold, where it was sold to, how many loads we had, and then what it was made into. So all that information is there for the public to look at.
Yeah, that's really good.
And
so how often is it updated?
Quarterly.
Oh, you said quarterly,
Yes.
okay.
Every quarter. So it's really interesting because, when we put the aluminum, steel, the two different types of plastics, one's in two plastic bottles. When we put that stuff out to bid, we have a list of about 10 or more brokers bidding on that material. And that's because we want to try to get the best price that we can and have some competition there on that material. Since our program is source separated, we have good, clean commodities to sell.
And that's
So-
why you have 10 bidders.
Yeah, that's why people are actually willing to, to bid on this stuff, because we do have good, clean stuff. So it's interesting when the brokers bid on it, to find out where that stuff is eventually going to end up. And so far, the brokers that I deal with have all been really forthcoming in providing that information. So I haven't had any issues with that.
Brian, did you get to Nashville for the residential recycling conference?
No.
I was talking to some people who got to sit in on the conference with the session with the second largest paper buyer. Those folks, is it Seven Dragons?
Seven Dragons is Chinese.
Okay, they spoke and talked about how single stream is tearing up equipment in paper mills and how the pet products are a mess. And it's kind of like they were speaking to the future. And I just want to applaud you because they said quality is going to matter. You're going to start seeing it in pricing. And they're concerned that recycling programs are really going to be hurt because people are going to realize that stuff is going to the dump instead of to a broker, because the paper mills are not going to continue to buy stuff that's tearing up their equipment. And when you mix everything together like in a single stream, you're going to have contamination. So we just thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
I've heard the same thing from the brokers that I deal with, that even though it hasn't really surfaced yet,
Yeah.
in the next few years, they think there's going to be pricing differences for source separated programs compared to single stream programs.
You're saying that Fayetteville will be out ahead of
Yes.
And we would have cleaner marketable material, yes.
On this chart, and I'm having a little trouble reading it, is that telling the first column after what you're selling, is that how
many tons?
Tons.
how many tons?
Tons of
Okay.
that, yeah.
Okay, so there's not a price on what you.
I'll show you where,
You're
well,
gonna show us where that is?
I don't have it broken down as to what was paid for each one of those on this spreadsheet.
Okay.
We do have, in the next tab I'm going to show you, a revenue generated for each commodity.
Okay, so there is a place.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Connie, also, it's a commodities market, so it's a fluctuating thing. It's
Right.
like when he gets a price today, there could be a tornado that blows out something or a tsunami. I mean, all these things affect the market, and that's what's so fascinating. It's like we were teaching your kids, how Brian can tell when there's a drop in the housing market because the newspaper is selling so well. They use the newspaper to make insulation. And if they're not building new houses, they don't need insulation. So he can tell you a lot about what's going on in the world from what he's seeing go out his door.
He doesn't pick up the
Isn't that
paper in the morning, he just looks at his report
I will say that right now we are experiencing some really good pricing with recyclable materials.
Yeah.
In fact,
Nice.
the pricing for the month that I got for my fiber items, cardboard, chipboard, newsprint, and mixed paper, have all went up. So now we went from 137 to 152 for cardboard, newsprint,
152
newspaper
what, per what?
per ton.
Per ton. Okay.
Yeah. And newsprint has gone up to 130 a ton. So these are really some good pricing.
What about your PET and?
Well, the last couple loads sent off of that are in the 30-cent range,
Okay.
which is $600 per ton. So there's really good value. The aluminum cans, the two different types of plastics, and the steel cans are the four top revenue generators for us right now.
I know that when we took some students to tour, one of the things they were so extremely impressed with was how much money you got for cans.
Yes.
I mean, that was just
The
amazing.
load that went out 2 days ago, we got 95 cents a pound for.
Yeah. I
Was
mean,
that
we're-
PVC or steel?
Oh, that's aluminum.
aluminum, yeah.
And how many pounds did you send out?
On that load, about 14 ton. So
Nice.
I figured it up $28,000, I think.
Yeah, that's,
Figured it out.
they were.
So,
Which you need to pay somebody to sort at the curb.
yeah, our program does, and we'll get to that. I know John's got some stuff, and he's got to leave at 6:15, so I'm trying to hurry up and get this through here. But anyway, that information's on that middle tab. The last tab has 2 sheets to it, and this is also turned into our budget office each quarter.
Okay.
And this is the one that has the information about the revenue.
Okay.
So when you look at this one, I'll try to blow it up a little bit. It has information all the way back from 2005. So the glass in year-to-date, which is this first quarter, so first quarter for 05, 06, 07, 08, all the way through this year, that's how much revenue is gained each quarter off each one of those commodities. So you can kind of get a perspective of over the years what has happened with the materials and what the value is.
Okay.
So that is that sheet. The next one is the tonnage for that. So you can see how our tonnage has compared to the first quarter of each one of these material. And it's really interesting, I put little comments at the top, and then what we were really seeing, and we've mentioned this before in the last time I was here, was the newspaper volumes. What we are actually seeing, the decrease in the amount of newspaper that's collected. It's not because people aren't recycling it, it's just basically because they don't get it anymore. So, and that has continued, so little comments go on the top of this page. So all that information is there for people, the public at large to look at and learn more about our recycling program.
Brian, is there a
Hopefully
pie
educate.
chart that shows our diversion rate?
That was in that first one, in
Look
the
how-
quarterly reports.
Easily he can move from one.
He's quite good at
He's a master.
This bottom one was the one. The 2011 residential waste stream tonnage and the diversion. So that is taking just the residential waste.
Yeah.
So the residential waste that's picked up at the curb, in the
Yeah.
carts, and then how much was recycled through the recycling program, and then how much was composted as well. So it's a little bit of a misnomer because
Yeah,
the recycling has the commercial in there as well.
yeah.
So when we pick up, there's 167 businesses that we pick up curbside now, so that gets lumped in with this.
You're talking about total diversion rate, though,
Yes.
right?
Is that something that we could add? Is
Yes.
it something that we
That would
could
be,
add
that
on
would be,
there?
I'm gonna ask you if y'all would add that, because
Okay.
you're the leader in Northwest Arkansas. And
that
this,
available?
and this is the discussion that needs to, conversation needs to be happening throughout Northwest Arkansas, is what are we really keeping out of the landfill? Because Tawnytown was expanded last summer, and the reality is, if we had been pulling out everything, I'm talking, all the cities Northwest, there would not have been a need for an expansion.
Would this suffice? Because this was the very first page that had the program percentage of waste.
I can't really see it, can y'all?
Okay.
I mean, I know our first core diversion rate's about, what, 15%? So can you show me where it says 15%?
When you look at that, it says recycling 9%, composting 5%, that's 14% of the total pie. The transfer station, that's where there's a little bit of extra outside Fayetteville trash.
Right.
But is that what you were wanting, or did you want something?
So that's 14%. That's the diversion rate.
So
But
that's,
it's not, it doesn't call it out necessarily.
I don't think it does either, and I really think that y'all are a leader. I mean, you're one of the few that are doing clean recycling, Siloama's doing clean recycling. People need to be talking about diversion rates if we want to get more oomph and more push for more recycling and waste reduction. What's happened in Fayetteville is for years people have thought that the participation rate, which is what, 47, 57%?
No, the participation rate's actually 56%.
Yeah, and see, people think that's the diversion rate. They don't understand that if we had a trash can with everything that was collected, that only 15% is being diverted from the landfill. Is that correct? 15% from our composting and our recycling?
Right, that's the percentage as it works out to the
See, and
total.
so 85% is still going to the landfill, right? Okay, in San Francisco, 80% is being diverted from the landfill, and that's.
So let's think about this was awesome. So
Oh,
I mean,
it is
So and that
wonderful.
seems like information wouldn't be that hard to.
The only thing is the transfer station,
Oh, okay,
because when you look at the total waste that goes through our facility,
yeah.
that it includes outside waste.
Oh, good point, good
So
point, good point.
That's the only, I mean, if you pull out the
Do
transfer
you have any
station,
idea what percentage of what's going through the transfer station is not ours?
I don't understand what the transfer station is.
It's
transfer station's where all the waste that we pick up from the residential collections, commercial collections, the public brings waste. It comes to our facilities, dumped on the tipping floor.
Oh.
Then it's pushed into the open top charge and taken to the landfill. You guys are coming for a
Yeah.
tour.
Sarah, it's
So-
literally transferred, the garbage transferred from a garbage truck into the 40-yard box that's gonna go to the landfill.
Okay.
It's
How is
transferred.
that
But
different
that
than?
9% is made up of primarily county, like people from, services from outside of the county that don't want to drive all the way to Tawnytown, they can bring it to the transfer station.
Private haulers that go around and pick up the
Okay.
trash in rural
So
areas.
it's not what you've picked up, it's what's been brought
Yeah,
in.
It's
what's
brought
right
in.
now.
Okay,
So
okay,
that-
so what we receive.
So that does skew the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing that because that will show you the diversion.
Yeah.
But you
But
can
there's a small
describe it as it
percentage.
is.
Yeah.
This is our facility, and our facility diverts this much.
Yeah. So
Even
we
even if
have
it's not
that.
Fayetteville, it's Fayetteville's facility.
Right.
And that's,
We do have.
yeah.
So,
Brian, thank you for all your work on this.
Yeah, this is
It's
great.
wonderful.
I have a question on the participation rate versus the diversion rate.
Yes.
Why such a difference? So 57, I think you said, percent of,
56% of the people that live in single-family homes actually set out a recycling cart, bin, excuse me.
okay, so is their population not enough?
When you think
Because you
about-
don't include
The metric
residential
is
or
homes
commercial.
versus like all trash. So here you're comparing places, here you're comparing
But
volume of.
What Amy's
So
also,
homes versus apartments, commercial, that
Yeah.
type of thing.
that's right, and that's, you
So-
bring up a real good point,
Okay.
because the lion's share of the garbage does not come from the residences.
Yeah,
Isn't
there's a
that right?
lot from the commercial side, which apartments are commercial collection because they're picked up with dumpsters.
Well, and I might have missed it before I came in, but the grant that we're
Oh, we
applying
haven't got
for.
it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, we've gotten permission to apply for it,
Okay.
but we don't have the grant, we haven't been approved for the grant. That is actually a process that Boston Mountain goes through. I believe they're actually meeting next week to start discussing the grant requests in the district, which they have a committee put together that will do that. They will divvy up the grant monies that's available in the district to the different entities that are applying, but there's always more people applying for the grants than what there is money available. So we applied for that grant to do a pilot for apartment recycling, but there's no guarantee that we'll get it.
Well, I know the council was happy that.
Which leads to great segue into the drop-off center, West Side.
Right.
Any new news on that?
Unfortunately, at this time, it's been put on hold. We're still short manpower to push that project through.
So you haven't broken ground?
We have not broken ground.
And I'm gonna make sure, I know that you need to go. So do we have, it's related to,
The drop off, not necessarily.
not the drop off, but,
But John was
Oh,
going to
yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about the plan a little bit.
yeah.
I've got some PowerPoint.
I'll get up,
Okay.
let you take it over.
Brian,
Thanks, Brian.
thank you very much.
Oh, Brian, thank
I work across all of our departments throughout the year, and solid waste does an amazing job with all their metrics.
And I think I'll get with Julie while he's doing that. I think it'd be good if we can get with Julie and like send, I know there was a press release, there were press releases about solid waste and so on that I send out, but for Julie McQuaid, it'd be nice if we could send out that link that shows this recycling, solid waste and recycling, like, look at our new accessible recycling market information.
On the website?
On the website.
Well, and I
Well,
think
there's
that
a great link too that you just
Yeah.
brought up online.
I think that it could stand to use like a recycling 101 primer of what the language is and
Too.
what that chart is, because I think your layperson's just gonna go right over their head.
It's a good idea.
Well, it's gonna go.
That sounds
yeah,
like a great
diversion
job
rate,
for the
transfer station, all
Recycling
that
task
stuff.
force.
Yeah. I think so, yeah. It's just kind of a,
That's a good idea. All right, we gotta hear from John before he runs away.
Sorry, I've got T-ball at 6:45, and I'm the coach, so got a bunch of crap 5-year-olds. and I'm like,
I could write on that one.
we don't want that.
Next
No.
week?
No, that's not me. That's not me. That was a nasty rumor. I'm not sure who started that. I wish I were going. So
You're across all departments.
my department is working with the Solid Waste and Recycling Division to develop their long-range master plan, essentially, and we're calling it integrated, or this is our initial title. We haven't gone through any public input. This is very preliminary. We're just kind of starting the process, but we're kind of leaning towards this integrated resource management plan because we don't want to call it a waste, long-range waste diversion plan, or it insinuates that somehow the resource is not, it's not a resource to be reused and recycled. We wanted to kind of get away from that waste terminology somewhat in the plan. So this is for the Solid Waste and Recycling Division. We're looking at a number of different things, not just recycling, but it's going to be looking, describing how their solid waste operations occur, franchise agreements, all those things, and kind of the how that functions. Here's just a draft table of contents that we've come up with, and there are three main parts that we're looking at. First is the assessment of existing systems, so talking about current operations and relevant statistics, revenue, expenditures, recycling rates, diversion rates, all those things, current franchise agreements, collection, etc. And then chapter 50, which is kind of it's the ordinance that really governs solid waste as a division. And so that we'll be covering that component. We're going to be looking at regional landfills, so the Taneytown landfill, and future disposal options, and kind of the life of that landfill, and then looking at local and national studies as well, just in the assessment of existing systems. Part 2 is kind of using that assessment and analysis to really develop goals around the metrics that we want. So how can we increase our diversion rate in a way that makes sense, and not just throwing out, hey, we're going to divert or hit a 50% diversion rate by 2025, but not really knowing how to get there. We want to do an analysis and understand what our waste stream looks like, how much of that waste stream is made up of recyclables, and how much of that's going to the landfill versus what we're actually diverting now, and that 15% or so that we're diverting, and what kind of tonnage is going. What's the potential revenue stream from that tonnage? Where is it coming from? So multifamily, small business, large commercial, and how do we develop a capital plan to access those markets, knowing that all that tonnage from multifamily right now is going to the landfill. How do we begin to kind of attack multifamily to increase our diversion rate there, and what's that going to cost? Because we know there's a cost associated with it.
And what about organics?
Yeah, right. So, and I've got some graphs here in just a second I'll show, and some of the data that we're using or trying to get to. But I wanted to just kind of take a look at this first, so you kind of see what our thought process is, and then so the goals and opportunities, and we'll lay that out, and why we want to get there, the importance of waste diversion, what that means for a long-term capacity in a landfill, risk management around landfills, how we're dealing with current landfills that have been closed now, like now I'm blanking on the development South Pass, landfill there's several landfills in the region that have been closed, and there are things associated with those landfills still that we're dealing with. So what does that look like in 100 years with Taneytown landfill? So that's kind of the discussion in part 2. And then in part 3 is the conclusions and recommendations. So based off of all the analysis, all the public input sessions that we go through, all of that kind of collective feedback, what is it that we can reasonably achieve, and what is that going to cost? And not just what can we achieve as a city, but what is the people's role? You mentioned organics. If we're not going to go out and collect organics curbside because it's cost prohibitive, what can people be doing to compost in their own yards? What kind of education has to go along with that to actually encourage people to compost? What are the benefits of composting versus it going to the landfill and creating methane, which is 21 times more potent than carbon dioxide? So all of those things, and then the fourth part that's becoming more and more popular, I shouldn't say the fourth part, another piece within the conclusions and recommendations that's becoming more and more popular with cities around the country is increased producer responsibility. So there's only so much that we could do about the waste stream that comes in the city, but people are buying products off of the shelves. Why aren't all of those products recyclable products? Because a lot of the plastics we can't take. There's not an existing market. So how do we talk we're in a really unique position in Northwest Arkansas because of the amount of product that's generated because of decisions that are made right here. How do we talk with vendors, suppliers, and really start having that discussion about, what can they do, and just make sure that they know how it would assist us in increasing our diversion rate as a community. And cities are starting to take that on, even if it's just as simple as having meetings. We want to make sure we're having these conversations, and so that's kind of part of what we're thinking in our review. this isn't showing up like I wanted, but the one on the right is some data from national EPA data. They put out a report every year about municipal solid waste and basically what that percentage breakdown is. So we're using those percentages and looking at our own waste streams and trying to come to conclusions about how much waste in tonnage values are actually recyclable within Fayetteville, and then comparing that to what we're recycling through our existing programs, so we can see very specifically. Well, I shouldn't say very specifically because it's still estimates based off of national data, but we can get good ideas about how much aluminum is out there that we're not hitting, how much plastics, how much is organics that we don't have a program for, you know, those types of things. And you can see food scraps is 14% of the waste stream. So based off of national data, those are kind of the estimates we're making. We also want to get more local data that we don't have right now. So how do we engage maybe the U of A or green teams to do waste audits based off of methodology that's in the RWBEC study to get better ideas about what actual small businesses or multifamily dwellings are producing, and then how does that marry against the analysis that we've done using national data. So that's kind of the process we're going through, and that's what this is just a graphic that Christina Jones developed. She's really talented on the graphic side, and so I think the other thing is that this plan is going to be something that visually it's appealing, and it's something that people will be able to pick up. It's going to have a lot of really good stuff in it, but people will be able to pick it up and see quick facts about, like the methane statistic that I said, you know, those types of things where it's not just a text-heavy document that you can't tolerate. This graphic that's kind of hidden here is just a breakdown. It's another piece of analysis that we've done, and it's showing our current pay-as-you-throw system. And what's great about pay-as-you-throw is that, you know, if you're using the 96 gallon, you've got to pay, I can't remember what the dollar amount is. $18.96. 64 is $13.35. So each time you progress, you're going to pay a little bit more. But the way it's set up with the current rate is that per gallon, you're actually paying more per gallon to recycle than you are for any of the others. And of course, we haven't had a rate study in, how long has it been?
Since 1996.
So imagine how rates, and we were talking about how those numbers fluctuate from quarter to quarter when Brian was talking, and what that looks like. And so we really feel like going into this, that a rate study is something that is going to be in the conclusions. We haven't, obviously it's so preliminary that we haven't decided yet, but you can see some discrepancies there despite what it is we want to do.
One question. Aren't people allowed to have several recycling bins so that would actually decrease the amount?
If you do multiple, and do you pay for, I can't remember, I've got
You
two.
get one bin for free, but then you can, if you want more, you can just buy another bin. You can have as many bins as you need at your home.
Yeah.
We do limit the commercial businesses that participate in the curbside program to 5 bins. And most residential folks do not have more than 5 bins.
And commercial pays like a set fee.
They pay the $5.88, which is defined in the BEC study.
Yeah.
Which is the cost per household to have a program.
Yeah. So anyway, we just want to look at all those cost analysis and how the programs are currently set up, and that'll be in that part 1. And I wanted to show some of the graphics that we developed. Right now, we've been just working on assessment, background. A lot of that stuff is defined, and as we move into the next quarter, it's going to be really more about the public engagement. We're setting up meetings with the Chamber of Commerce to access multifamily managers and small business, and some of these groups to have those discussions. Obviously, we want to utilize the EAC and just y'all's drive as far as pursuing this topic and making sure that we're engaging you a lot like the Streamside Ordinance. I'm going to ask you just a little bit about some research potential, some things. The last graphic that I showed, and this is again is just kind of showing off for Christina, but just kind of showing what a life cycle of waste looks like, and again, just to make that that end report more personable and less of just a.
Good job.
I like that.
So
Good job.
anyway, she's really
I
good
can
at that.
understand that. That's good.
So that's kind of the end of the slides. And like I've said a few times now, we're in the very preliminary stages. We've met with Brian and Carol and David Jurgens, the utilities director, a few times and kind of gone through some of this, and we're still doing some of that preliminary analysis. One of the things that we really liked that I wanted to propose to y'all is we really need to be able to do comparable studies against peer cities. So we've looked at some of their long-range plans, but we haven't really delved into
Comps,
I'm sorry.
comps.
Well, more like waste audits, like what kind of waste audits have been done, and what, when they were doing their waste audits, what were they looking at specifically to give them confidence in what they were producing? So,
So they get like Seattle, Portland.
I don't know.
So
We
you
have-
need that information?
Yeah.
Do you need like the report, or do you just need, hey, Seattle did this?
I think it was the
Methodology.
reports, different reports. RWBEC has a pretty good methodology, but really understanding how they looked at it and how it informed their overall master plan. Because if they go in and they just look at one apartment complex, or did they look at 5 apartment complexes? The other thing is that it needs to be a peer city. We don't want, I mean, Seattle and some of those cities would be great, but if we had a Chapel Hill or Ames, Iowa, those types of cities that have college towns that are going to be heavy on multifamily, because apartment complexes are a big piece. So there's that kind of research that we're still trying to access and look for. So that's a big piece of it. Obviously, the education piece we're going to be developing as we go through. How much education, how much do we want to invest in that? How important is that? Which we know is important, but what are the different categories and how much can we get out of that? Because that's more, it's a little softer analysis when you're talking about education, how you're actually changing people's behaviors and how much that will contribute to an overall waste diversion goal or that type of thing.
So it seems like, and it is similar to the streetside protection ordinances. It seems like maybe this is a proposal. If the recycling subcommittee, and that can be, it can grow, but if we could compile like basically a literature review and then summarize it with, this is what the study said, and this was like key points out of those, and give that as a packet.
Yeah.
That's what we did for that, and that seemed like it facilitated the research at the staff level.
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful.
Is that, so Louise and Amy?
Could you say that again, please? I'm sorry.
So we did, basically would be to develop a packet of literature, and that would come from cities that have done this kind of waste audit.
We need to know what cities to research, right?
Yeah, we would need to, that
So is
group would
that
need to do that.
population, or you're looking more for similar type of town and that it has a college, or
I think,
both of those?
you can make some assumptions that even if it's a 200,000 population community, if it's got an institution like the university, it's going to dictate.
Is that
you don't have to
something
get into the census
Well, is that something
necessarily.
you all could do for us? Is what are your needs as far as criteria? Like, what is the, do you need a city that's,
What is?
yeah, what do
Yeah.
you need? Like, what's the framework that would help you if it's, 3,000 person town that may not be as comparable as something that's.
Yeah, I can absolutely put some of that,
Okay.
some of those items together. I think the reason we didn't come with towns is if we knew the towns, then we would just do it. I mean, we've
So
got.
the hard part is figuring out the
It's
towns.
figuring out what are the communities out there.
So-
That's some of the data that we haven't come across in some of our research.
Well, it seems like somebody in this group might know some towns.
And you're looking for towns that have done waste audits and use those waste audits to create their recycling programs.
I mean, if there are waste audits out there that towns have done, we can utilize that. I mean, if you can even further that by helping how to inform their ultimate goals and master plans, that's helpful as well. It's going to be more difficult, I think, to get to that unless you're talking with folks in that community.
In that community.
But,
So is there, I know Louise, you're involved with recycling, but I don't want to assume something. So what I need to know, if we're all interested in this, we need a point person to kind of be the champ, be somebody that says, give me the list of criteria for cities, you know, that kind of thing. So, is anyone willing to do that?
My hands are a bit full with Avatar.
If you don't want to,
It's-
I will.
I'll let you do it.
Okay.
Okay.
it's just and it's not something that
Okay,
y'all
so
have to
we
do,
need-
but
just
I know that y'all
Keep
got.
us moving forward, I think,
Okay.
is what we need.
So this will be essentially the requirements of what you need for us to move forward on this. The cities, the criteria you want to look at.
He
so we
needs
can
the
do our
cities
own
from us,
cities.
but if you'll give us like
The
if
criteria
there's
of
a
cities.
population and that kind of stuff, that will help you the most, and then we can begin to search.
Okay.
I'll send some criteria to you based off of what we.
Ooh, that's gonna be fun. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
And we'll just brainstorm cities that we know of.
Do we know of any in Arkansas?
Well, we're gonna figure that out. And, and then we'll dig into researching what they've got. It may take phone calls or just maybe Google.
And as far as doing best practices, this may not be realistic at all, but what about with Walmart and their success with diversion rates?
Yeah, I mean, we've certainly followed that discussion. I think the biggest difference is that they control their inputs and outputs entirely, and we don't control our inputs. That's part of the discussion about increased producer responsibility, is that helps with the inputs, but we can't control what the resident goes out and buys off the shelf, brings in and decides to throw away. Whereas Walmart knows exactly what's coming in the door. And they can say, you know what, if you want it to come in our door, it's got to be made out of this material. Or unless it's going out with a customer, then we don't have to divert that from our waste stream.
Do we have any kind of relationship with the folks at Walmart who do this?
Yes. I think they would come in.
Yeah, because I think they would,
Talk,
because I know they had an
they have-
RW
they
Beck
have
study
that.
several years ago. I know that they've gone from, you know, different pieces of recycling, clean organics and stuff like that. And maybe they could just help sit down with best practices and that could apply to us.
I know that they are they've been in communication about the compost there for a while.
They're a huge piece of the organics picture and really across the nation.
Mhm.
They started a national program beginning this year to divert all the organics out of their stores. That's massive. And so they're facing issues in each region about how to handle that waste. The materials that are picked up here in Fayetteville at the stores in Fayetteville are going up to Missouri to be composted at this particular time, because there's a facility up there that will do that.
What is that? Are you talking about like vegetables that didn't sell, or I mean, what's the?
Produce, bakery,
It's
floral,
called food
dairy,
Oh, okay.
yep, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
No meat or milk.
They don't throw meat into it unless it goes to an anaerobic digestion system, which they are looking at.
I don't want to take your ginger snaps. I apologize to have to run.
Oh, well, thank you. Let's give, thank you very much,
wonderful-
John. So I guess you'll send that to Amy and we'll do some digging and then get back with you on ideas.
Next month? Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Good luck.
All right, so what I'd like to have is to touch base on is the last meeting, and I understand it went well, and we had some ideas about city council tours that would begin after the August. We have a lineup currently, and through August. So you all brainstormed ideas, and to be honest, I have not ever received that, and I don't. And that's John left before I could give him a hard time, but. So if someone, and plus we have some others that are here. Do you remember what those were? And then I can follow up. But are there also, what the other part I wanted to do is encourage you to attend the ones that are ongoing right now, and please come to that. Open to the public. We went on Monday to the West Side wastewater treatment plant, and it was so interesting. I have been to wastewater treatment plants, and of course, I'm a geek, weird, and nerdy, but I love that stuff. I love it. It's so interesting. And, you know, we went through and it's all about the, you know, they show the ultraviolet treatment, and it's really, if you think about wastewater treatment, it's really bacteria farming. So these are people that run wastewater treatment plants are bacteria farmers, and they manage the, Joel was there. And
You got it.
yeah, and so it was really cool to see all that. And the time before we went to the Nolan treatment plant on the east side of town. And we are, the thing I wanted to say on a philosophical level, I guess, is, and a citizen level is, we are so lucky to have not one, but two award-winning wastewater treatment facilities in this town that have very few overflows or leaks, and it's because, yes, we have amazing staff that are very knowledgeable, but and I was talking to David Jurgens about this community supports that. This community understands the benefits of having wastewater treatment plants that support not just Fayetteville, but some of the surrounding communities, and invests in the treatment of the water, and understands how important that is, not for right now, but on down the line, because we have capacity for growth, which is where most communities are not. Infrastructure, you hear on the national news, is such a difficult thing, and so many places are behind in that, and this community chose to invest in that back then. And we're, you know, there's of course always ways to improve, but I am impressed with that. The people that came before me made some really good decisions about doing that, and we need to continue that, and, you know, and go on tours and go look at it and learn about it and see how. And the thing that's really neat is we are looking at other technologies and testing other technologies that can reduce some of the steps in the water treatment facility to save costs. So you know, again, you have the university here that's doing research in algae growth at wastewater treatment facilities, so that you can produce energy from the algae, and, you know, all those kinds of things. So neat stuff. But that was a tour that we went on. And so what were the tours?
Well, one thing I was going to ask is, where do we see the list of the upcoming, like the dates?
Oh,
and
yes.
Can that be emailed?
Lindsley.
Can that be
Yeah, I can have that in email. Lindsley
Yeah.
Smith and Don Marr are the ones that gave it to me. And I need to get that list of tours. Okay.
And one thing that I remember from our last meeting was that when John was he was running through the list of what they were going to be doing, one thing everyone sort of said was, at each of those places that, like, you're going to go to Gully Park, right, for the stream restoration.
Yeah.
That at each of the locations, there's something related to sustainability happening, and to make sure that also, like, I don't know if they talked about it at the wastewater treatment plants, but they're both certified as wildlife habitat.
Yeah, we talked about the Woolsey Wetland Prairie.
And the prairie, okay. And then when they
talked about the certification.
Good, yay. And then when they go to Gully, that we make sure they see the native landscaping, and the parking lot and all that.
And that's why I think I really encourage everyone watching to come on these tours. These are city council tours, but they are public events, just like this meeting is a public meeting. And they are announced. They're on the weekly calendar that goes out. That's another way. You know, if I don't get this list to you, you can always see it on the weekly calendar. Okay. And this is the thing, that there is a city council tour every other Monday. Every Monday before a city council meeting, there is a tour. Now, we may not take the tour, but it's on the calendar.
Oh.
And this is why I was requesting that this group help identify ideas for tours, because we weren't for a while there doing anything. And now they're starting to utilize those to help us learn about facilities and so on. And I think this group can help bring that message home, that it's not, you know, that the sustaining our resources is part of the economic stability of this community. So.
Well, and I totally agree with Terry, is that Nolan wastewater is one thing, but to go see what they've done with Habitat is totally different. Woolsey is totally different.
Oh yeah, well they didn't have to mitigate a wetland when they built Nolan.
But to see the habitat that has
what else
occurred.
they're doing.
Yeah.
You know,
it's beautiful.
the quail
Woolsey
that
wetland is
come back.
beautiful. Yes.
Have the quail come back?
Yes.
Oh, really?
That was
Wow.
Mhm.
at the library. Is it on there already?
It should be on there.
Okay.
I
I
don't know,
can't
so-
remember what the other ones.
But that's what we need to do. But I'll send that out to you and get that. I think it was Angie also had the list. So
So, and
Are
this
we-
is
we
open
lost-
to the public too. Do you get
city
to
council
people?
tours are open to the
And-
public. What we don't have very many. I don't know that we've ever had public, but it's a public meeting. The press comes. It's
And
it's in the
you just
calendar.
you just meet at the facility.
well, I know we meet. Sometimes I do because I can't get here, but we usually meet right out here in front, and then pick us up in the little van,
Okay.
and they take us in. You're welcome to do that, or you can meet us there. If you see that it's Westside Wastewater Treatment Plant, just show up there.
Yeah, and I think Julie McQuaid can help with the
Yeah.
new community link. And
Oh, yeah.
that feeds into
Commonplace.
Facebook
Mhm.
and Commonplace. Yeah. And I think if it was more well known, more people would go.
That's a great idea.
And I'll send you also the tour schedule we do with American Bloom.
Okay.
The judges come next week. But I mean, we do a lot of various things like Headquarters House, Clinton House, or Solid Waste. Ryan always does a wonderful tour. It's pretty odd that people think it's pretty odd American Bloom would go to Solid Waste.
Is it
Well,
board
that's
part
a
of the environment?
good, yeah,
It is,
that's
it
right.
is.
It's important. If we were hiding it, that would be the problem. Oh, no, you don't want to go there. All right, and then I would like to know before we get out of here is just about, I know you had a big meeting, and if you want to summarize that, and then you have some upcoming events going on, and then, so.
So I think I'm going to head.
Yeah, head out, thank you.
Right.
You're the best, you're the best. Yeah, good job, thank you. Susan.
Yeah, so we met a few weeks ago for the local food guide, and it was a great meeting. Some of the same folks that were there in November, and several new, not new to local foods, but new
I'm sure it's
to,
girl.
Okay.
new to the group.
Send it for next week.
And we came up with some clear decisions about what to pursue. And so now what's coming out of that, so the plan is to move forward with, I don't know if y'all have seen the gallery guide that's out. It's like it's a nice brochure that the Chamber of Commerce is partly behind, and we thought as a place to start, something like that, maybe with a map in it. And then to have both behind that as a website.
Okay,
That's where we want to start.
okay.
There are lots of ways to start, but that's what we're doing. At least now, that's what we've decided for right now. We are in the process of getting out a Google document that people can add to as we start to collect information
Okay.
about the various,
Like edit, they can add.
yeah, so it's like we're getting all the information in one place.
Good.
So it seemed like a pretty proactive group, very
Sounds like-
proactive. We're looking into, some people have brought up some ideas for funding. We're looking into that. And we have another meeting at the end of this month.
Okay.
So the one question I have at this
Yeah.
point is, in terms of, we talked about this right from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It really looks like it's gonna be a regional thing,
Okay.
four-county area.
Mhm.
And whether or not it can then be appropriately connected with EAC or not. So I don't know how to do
I was
that.
I was talking. I guess it was Angie had spoken with you. She was kind of filling me in on some of the stuff that was going on, and it sounded just fantastic. And it seems like this is my idea. So I was thinking that, and you can hate it or love it. So and that's okay. I'm just throwing it out there. So, but I think that it sounds like it's exactly where you kind of hoped it would be. Like that you've gotten enough buy-in from outside, like you all initiated it, which is exactly the point.
Yeah.
And now you have some other people that can run with it. And
The other thing I
Mhm.
didn't mention, I should have, Teresa Maurer from
Yeah.
NCAT and Local Food
Mhm.
Group is basically co-facilitating now.
Yeah.
So
She was on the radio.
Yep,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
she
great
had a
interview.
radio spot,
Mhm.
yeah.
It was a
Yeah,
good
I
story.
actually did never hear it, but yeah.
It was well done.
Someone
and
said,
she-
oh, I heard you were on the radio, well.
She named you and said
Yeah.
EAC, this came out of the EAC, I think that's actually where I thought about that was, like, this is fantastic. It's exactly what you could have hoped, what you
Yeah, and
could
we've
have
had
hoped for.
people who are, computer people stepping up to the plate saying, I can do the website. We've
Yeah.
had people say, I'm good at graphics, I really want to help. I mean, we have people from the university who are saying, okay, this is funding opportunities we could look into. People are very excited about the project.
Yay,
So it's just a matter of keeping all those
right.
things
And
together.
so-
But anyway, so my question about,
I think you can
EAC.
birth it. We can say launch. I don't know. We can say that this originated in you and this committee, and now you can hand it off. Is what I would say. Not get uninvolved with it,
yeah.
but it can be.
Well, my
bigger than
intention
us.
is to continue to be involved with it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm there as a member of EAC or just a member, just
Yeah.
a citizen.
Well, you can keep us informed, but I mean, we don't have really clear lines. I just mean that as far as like this committee's involvement from people from this committee, I would say it sounds like you don't need the committee as much anymore. You've involved enough other people that they can take it.
I think the question that, at least as I understood it when we were talking about it at the beginning, was this committee is addressing Fayetteville issues.
Yeah.
And this guide is going to be, the 4-county, at least the 4-county region that's called Northwest Arkansas.
Well, what this group could do is, with the idea that this group is intended to help, one, educate citizens so that they can better communicate with the city council, thus being advisory to the council, or be advisors to the council, or bring ideas to the council. So it's the city council interviews and identifies you as people that can help them be advised on these types of issues. And so with that in mind, to me, it seems like having that connection, your connection, can help, one, keep Fayetteville informed, keep the council informed of this kind of thing, and keep us informed if we want to have a resolution, if there's a resolution needed to adopt this by something, I don't know what could come, but there may be something in there that could come back to this. It may not be that we have to do anything right now, but it would be just the connection to it to keep Fayetteville involved.
Yeah.
Make sure Fayetteville is
yeah.
represented.
It's definitely represented, yeah.
So
Okay.
I think that's an important and valid role. So thank you, congratulations. That's great. Cool. Yay, all right, good news.
Wildlife Habitat Project has a lot of things happening right now, and I'll start with schools. We have certified our 8th school as schoolyard habitat, and tomorrow morning we've been going to the schools' assemblies and presenting them with their habitat certification and the school kits that we give teachers that have all the resources they need to use the outside spaces of the school for learning. So we've been presenting those. The mayor has made most of those. We just did Happy Hollow. Tomorrow our 8th school will be Butterfield Elementary at 9 a.m. And another neat thing that's happening with schools is that Connie's service learning class of high school students have been trained and developed a how do I say this, a project of,
Habitat project, and it's,
you tell about what they're doing.
well, they have to go out and find all the different parts of what makes up a habitat. And we have a little brochure, well, we have a kind of laminated, sheet of paper that kind of shows the different types of habitat and what to look for. And my students were trained to do this, and then they went over and helped, these are all 2nd graders, and they went over and helped 2nd graders, and what my students said was, well, they know a lot more than we do, which was great, because we wanted to do it after they had had a habitat lesson at their schools, which they did. And it was great letting them know, and I tell my students, well, that's what's so wonderful about teaching. You learn more than you ever will any other way. And that is part of our curriculum for next year. It's already being written in, and so it will continue, and hopefully we'll just get better and better with it. I'm very excited about it.
It's really neat. So her high school students created this activity that's tied to the second grade frameworks for so what they're learning of their frameworks. So the high school students come to the schools, the grade schools, on their hour during their class, and they lead the second graders around their own school grounds doing this habitat scavenger hunt that's tied to their curriculum. Yes, so that's fantastic. And then the other thing with schools is that Butterfield Elementary, where my daughter goes to kindergarten, it's a LEED certified building, but they have this area that was just this huge eyesore. When the school was built, they ran out of money for the landscaping, and it was just dirt, baked clay, basically, that when it rained didn't drain. It would just turn into a mess. And it's surrounded by sidewalks, so the kids walk back and forth from the gym to recess, 3 times a day. They look at it out their windows. And the PTO had been wanting to do for something to happen. It's a large space, something to happen with it. And so we partnered the Habitat Project with Apple Seeds. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Apple Seeds. Does nutrition and local foods, gardening. They manage the garden club there. So we partnered with, and the garden club had their little square foot garden plots out there on the baked clay, ugly eyesore too. So it's just not a very pretty place to take the kids out. And they meet every Monday. So we partnered with them, and then the Illinois River Watershed Partnership. And because they have money to put rain gardens in schools, and this was the perfect setting for that because it has the drainage problems there. And so it's a huge rain garden. Our first work day, all those groups coming together, was last Saturday, and we brought in 8 loads of compost from the city to try to amend that soil. It was so hot. Oh my gosh. And the volunteers came to work for 5 hours in the beating down sun in the 90-degree heat, shoveling compost. And the second transformation happened yesterday with our planting day. So we were out there at 2 o'clock planting. Illinois River Watershed Partnership brought plants for the rain garden. PTO gave $400 for plants, and we're doing native plant beds for habitat around those. And then there's several other stages that'll come. We're doing some rocks. We're doing a seating area for the classroom. So it's really going to be this area where watershed education can happen, habitat learning can happen. The gardening club now is going to have a much prettier place. They have their little section on the high ground away from the rain garden. And just in what we did yesterday, I was out there kind of at the end setting up the sprinklers, and the kids and the teachers walking past were just, wow, I just couldn't believe it. So, and it's just going to get better and better. So lots of cool things happening with the schools. We also have a speaker series. You may have got the emails. I keep emailing stuff out about it. Through the summer, we've got 5 talks happening. I did the first one. They're all Fayetteville Public Library on Monday nights.
Please pass around the schedule.
When you get these emails, pass them on to as many people as you can.
And the next one is?
The next one is going to be June 27th, 6 o'clock at the Fayetteville Public Library. And this is a girl, this speaker is a doctoral student at the U of A who is in entomology, and she studies native bees and is particularly looking at conservation because there's been a decline in our bumble and carpenter bees, our pollinators, a sharp decline. So she's going to be talking about that. I have seen her talk before. She did a talk for our Arkansas Master Naturalist class, and it's excellent. She's really good, and I recommend coming. You'll learn a lot you never knew about bees.
I was thinking you had something June 18th. Or is that July 18th?
There is one coming up. Then there's more through July and into August. Okay. After bees, we'll have Cindy talking about butterfly conservation through native planting. And then we'll have Bruce Shackelford, who, for you if you don't know, he came and spoke to EAC actually, but he did the
He did the
Woolsey.
Watershed Luncheon Series.
He did the Watershed Luncheon Series, the Woolsey Wet Prairie mitigation. He was his consulting company did that. So he's going to be doing a talk on backyard wildlife management 101. And from what he's told me, the little tidbits about what he wants to talk about, it's going to be really, really good. And that actually we're tying into the League of Women Voters, an event that they're having. So they're going to make their event to be coming to this talk and supporting the Habitat Project. So that's another neat collaboration. Then we're going to have, the last talk is going to be about wildlife corridors through Northwest Arkansas and how people can look at the map, the green infrastructure map that's been adopted for land use planning and say, well gosh, here's where my home or my neighborhood could, you know, falls between this habitat hub and this hub. What can I do on my property to kind of help? And so the talk will be about what can city governments do, what can property owners do, what can we all do to help link these habitat hubs so they're not so habitat's not so fragmented. And that's going to be, I think, a really neat talk as well. So the speaker series, and then the other thing I just wanted to mention was that we need 100 more homes certified, and the city will be certified. All that stuff.
Okay, so yeah, tell us the big picture here.
Okay.
How this helps Fayetteville.
So how the whole project.
The whole thing obviously helps Fayetteville.
Oh.
I mean, with the we're going for it. Yeah.
What we're going to get. So to get the city certified as a community wildlife habitat, all these things we had to do. We all the things I just told you about, the speaker series and the schools and all that. That's all part of the goals that we had to meet and to get the points we need to certify. Every time we get featured in the paper, we get more, outreach. We get points for that. Our website, our brochure. The thing that we are lacking on is homes. We need, based on our population, we have to have 200 homes certified. We're at 100 right now, which is pretty good, but we need 100 more, and we're hoping to do that by the end of the summer so that early fall we can have our celebration that the city is certified. And of course we won't stop there. We're going to keep adding more, Louise, but our goal is to just reach that certification point by the end of the summer.
Okay.
So I just sent out an email today that says ready, set, certify. Fayetteville needs 100 more homes. Pass it on.
Has there been any kind of competition type thing among the wards?
No.
Great idea.
Well, that was an early idea. If you remember, Nicole was gonna head up the neighborhood challenge thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty heavy on time, which it just needs somebody to own it. And when she had to move on, then we just don't have somebody to fill that role to work with Julie on that competition and kind of figure out how that works. And
with the FCON?
yeah. Which we talked about this last time. Not very many people actually come to the FCON meetings.
Right. Well, I don't know if there's
kind of a
anything
challenge.
just among council members that could be throw down. Mark Kenyon, I'm gonna get more homes than you are in your ward or something.
That's a good idea.
I think I said this
Summer
last
challenge.
time that it is the neighborhood challenge, the ward challenge, all that. That the issue is, and this is where whoever wants to do this would have a lot of work on their hands. This is the stumbling block for that. National Wildlife Federation tracks certifications by zip code. So every time a Fayetteville resident logs on and certifies their property, they say what their zip code is. National Wildlife Federation sends me a report once a month of those properties. But to do a challenge by ward or by neighborhood, then that requires sitting down and going through that and figuring out that address is in this ward or is in this neighborhood association.
Isn't there?
Which is very hard. And then you get people calling you going, how many does so-and-so have versus us? And so that's
Another thing,
that's the problem.
wouldn't it be great if people just did it because it was the right thing to do?
Well, yeah, but I just think that competition brings people.
And in Austin,
they want to be the best.
Yeah, right.
In Austin, they did a
neighborhood.
neighborhood challenge, but they have paid staff people that do their wildlife habitat project.
Isn't there a way through the city?
And
that
she
if
said
you-
it was, I talked to that girl and she said it's very time consuming.
Isn't there a
Just
way?
get the city, just get the city to be the first one in the state. I mean, can't we all come together and just get that done?
That's kind of what we've, the card we've, Ryan.
Don't you think 100 was?
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Isn't there a way within the city that if they punch in an address, it'll pop up what ward it's in?
There may be.
Well, the GIS people could do that.
So that maybe not
So
be
it could be
too
done,
time
somebody has to
consuming.
do it, because I
Yeah.
can't do it.
Well,
But if you all would just please certify your properties,
Yes.
please.
first, we all have to do
Please.
it.
Okay, push it through you.
It's easy,
Yeah.
it's quick.
Yeah.
Just get on nwf.org, click certify, it's
Tells you
fast
what
and
to
easy.
do, yeah.
Tells you what to do.
And if you want to do just a little bit more, which I did, you get a really neat little stake that you can put in the yard that says, certified
Yeah.
wildlife habitat.
Yeah, you can get the sign.
And all the
They've got some
flowers
pretty
just grow all around it. Yeah, I mean, so.
I have one.
It's on it.
My husband was riding with one of his bosses from Bud Anderson, and they dropped his car off it so that they could ride together at my house. So his boss was like, "So you live next to a wildlife habitat, huh?" And he's like, "No, our property is wildlife habitat." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Probably then call me a tree hugger. and-
Yay.
Always for you.
No, it's great though.
That's good.
And I'll keep sending you out notices of the speaker series dates and the
Okay.
volunteer work days. There will be more planting days and habitat development workshops and things, so.
Very good.
I just
Well, what
wanted
other-
to say one
Yeah.
more thing about that, and that was that Dana Smith, our Energy Corps member with Fayetteville School District, has been a big part of this,
Fantastic.
and she's
Good for
been
you,
wonderful.
guys.
So
Yeah.
she is just awesome. Oh, yeah, well, she's done a lot of this too, and I really appreciate that.
I just have one quick question. How many have been certified since we started this?
How many what?
How many properties?
We've had 100 homes, we've had 8 schools, we've had 24 parks and trails, we've had about 4 or 5 businesses, we've had 2 churches, we've had,
So were there not any homes? Kind of my neighbor said they've been certified for a while.
when we very first started pursuing community certification, one of the first things they did was a search for us, National Wildlife Federation, and they said, "Oh, you already have 30."
30, okay.
So, but they did this on their own before we started pursuing. So, if you want to say, then since we've started promoting this, 70 more have tagged on, but we need 100 more. Okay, does that make sense? Okay.
Well, thank you very
Yeah.
much. Fantastic. Very good.
Could
So-
we get a list of the ones that are, and like I can use online, publish them?
People's address,
People's names.
We can maybe contact them and say, hey, can we list you as kudos for having certified your property?
As you register.
certainly the businesses and parks and stuff, I'll see about, the
You guys get together on
But,
that.
Yeah, that would be
you know,
good.
I don't
Yeah,
mind calling
recognition.
people and
And
saying,
then
would you like,
recognition, and then I get
put
to
your
other
name on my
people.
blog?
Okay, yeah, I'll give you the list. Yes,
Okay.
You got a list.
All right, what other announcements or goings on here before we close shop? The next meeting is July, second week of July. So, I know, can you believe it? So,
What's
if
the
you
date
have-
on that?
oh, I don't know.
Okay, awesome. I don't think I'll be
Keep talking,
here.
Sarah.
Okay, so the next meeting, second week of July, second Thursday in July, and what I'd like to do is, if you have, right now, if you have an idea of what you'd like to hear about, I know if you want to have,
14th.
for the 14th, July 14th, which is Bastille Day.
It's what day?
Bastille Day.
Oh, yeah.
Sarah's
Yeah.
pseudo French.
Yeah. And so, I speak French, I don't always agree with everything that the French do. So if you have a request, I need to speak with John. I think he may have some ideas about upcoming things, but also, if there are agenda items that we need to be looking at, we need to be, I'd like to try to keep us a little more informed of agenda items that are coming up. We're having more development, which is great. So we want to be asking questions like, what is the drainage like in the area, or what type of drainage plan do you have, and
Are there
so
like
I
city
hope you-
council items that are coming up?
Yeah, be watching that, and I think it's like, for example, and this is like city projects, was it Cato Springs Road, we were going through there and asking about that, and apparently the highways helped design it, and they're not going to be using any sort of, it's all pipe, curb, and gutter, and I felt kind of disappointed about that. So the design's already done, and so what I'm going to do is get with the engineering, city engineering. What we can do is at the outfall of the highway department designs, have some outfall areas that we could. Now I don't know what I'm going to go talk to them about it, because
What's that mean, the outfall area? What do you mean?
where the pipe opens up, instead of just blowing out into the river, you would somehow, they did it with Red Oak Park, and before it goes into Hamstring.
Okay.
Does it
And
slow it down, Sarah?
Slows it down.
Okay.
Filters
a little bit?
Filters, and
Okay.
then it seeps out into the stream rather than
Rushing.
blowing out into the stream. So this kind of thing. So
And it's going
I may
to,
have.
that will increase the speed and so forth of flooding in that little park by the Levi plant down there.
Oh,
We flooded out last year, Great House Park,
Thank you, guys.
and it's totally underwater.
And the other thing, so related to that, that may be a good thing to have time to talk about, but the flooding issue, and they're gonna be looking at different flooding areas around, and it may be interesting for you all to hear about their plans for that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll see if Terry can come and
Yeah.
talk to you
Yeah.
about the different, it's an interesting process they use, is they overlaid from 2006 to current, the complaints that have been called in and those were from, and they had a layer for that, and they overlaid the real recent, like the 2011 calls, and put those as reds. The blue were the longer period of time, and the red were, they correlated with where we've been hearing problems since 2006, which is just an interesting, I think it was a very good technique that they used. And then what I asked them to do is overlay another layer of the basin, like what's the drainage area for those red dots, so that they can look upstream and not just at the red dot. And so that's what maybe they could come show us.
That'd be good, Sarah.
And see what they could do. Okay, we'll do that. Thanks for helping me talk that out. I knew there was, I knew that'd be.
The Old Main Lawn, anybody?
Did you hear about that today? The new proposal, it's not, there's nothing in stone. You've probably, did you see the
Joe,
announcement?
you sent it
No, I'm
out.
not on Wi-Fi.
It's not official, but the chancellor offered another, an alternative route. Now, I have to say loud and clear, there has been no decision on that, but the chancellor has offered another alternative that they'll be talking with the mayor and so on about, apparently, so.
And my impression was Paula was pleased with this alternative route. Okay.
Yeah,
Me
the
too.
people, yeah.
The people that were
Me too.
opposed.
I think I'm pleased, one, that they took an opportunity to
To
reconsider.
do it, yeah.
And two, that it does seem to be a better choice and it's
Yeah.
less impactful.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Paula.
Thanks, Paul.
But again, there's no decision, but
Hey,
this is a
thanks.
proposal for another alternative.
And
Good.
thanks for the newspapers covering your event.
Yeah,
Yes,
for coming to
thanks.
our meetings. Thanks for coming, Joel.
Yeah.
Sorry I couldn't actually be there.
That's
How
okay.
was your talk?
Thank
your
you.
presentation?
Really good. Yeah, 30 people, even though I ended up competing with the mayor's town hall about about the lawn. So a lot of the people that wanted to come to the talk felt like they needed to go there, so they kind of poked in and left.
That's good.
But
That's good.
sitting here, 30 people, so yeah, it was good.
Did you get all that questions? Thank you. I'm gonna close this off so they can, thank you very much for coming to the EAC, and we are adjourned, and I appreciate your attendance.